All right, we have another signing after the Chiefs just signed Kareem Hunt back, bringing him back into the fold for another year. I was literally on there saying, hey, I know more moves are coming and they need to be along the D-line at some point in time because you only have one defensive tackle on the roster in Chris Jones, and that is the very next signing they actually made was a defensive tackle. This is not any brainiac thing that I thought of that I knew in advance. It's just you look at the roster, you look at the Chiefs and how they have gone about making signings before the draft to where they don't have to go in there and make any major desperate moves. This is just doing that, adding to the roster. They're going to draft a defensive tackle in the draft for sure. Very deep draft class. You could even see an edge. We'll see what happens about the return of Charles Omenihu. Does he come back? There's a lot of questions still to be answered along the D-line and along the roster as a whole, but with free agency frenzy here, we're only day 5 into free agency since the tampering period started, day 2 or 3 or whatever since the new league year started. You're starting to see the moves that are being made. Pieces are coming together along the entire puzzle. So let's get into it. The Chiefs are signing former Chargers first round defensive tackle Jerry Tillery to a 1-year deal. Good depth add to the Kansas City D-line as Tillery recorded 12.5 sacks and 4 forced fumbles and 50 career starts. Super athletic guy out of Notre Dame. 9.72 RAS, which is always something that you love to see. Veach and company taking swings on former first-round picks that are super athletic. We've seen this happen a bunch. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest said that he's a interior player primarily, yes, defensive tackle, but has edge flexibility. So he can kick outside. And as you'll see here in a second, per PFF, if you look at his detailed position breakdown, he can move all over the line. And obviously the Chiefs love that. When they have their D-line out there, you are allowing a lot of times Chris Jones to choose his favorite matchup. Hey, Chris, who do you want to go against? You line up there and we'll compliment you. The entire thing runs around Chris Jones, especially on key downs, passing downs, third downs, crucial situations. That's what's happening. So when you can get a lineman like Charles Omenihu, who's not on the roster, but they had him before he could kick inside. Mike Dana can kick inside. Chris Jones can kick outside. You have these guys kind of being able to move all over and just create mismatches. That's what you're looking for. Mismatches with Chris Jones. Build around that and let's run it. So when you get a guy like Tillery who can kind of move all around, like you do like this. This is kind of a lot to look at, but if you just look at his total snaps here, you can see he's lined up a lot of different places. Left side of the interior, right side of the interior, left edge, outside, right edge. So he can kind of play all over the place. Something else I pulled up from PFF for you is how these guys graded out. And he was formerly of the Vikings last year. Let me back up and just kind of share. He's a former first-round pick, played with the Chargers, ended up going to the Raiders for a couple of years. One thing I do like about him, he's only 28 years old, but he's had back-to-back full seasons. So this isn't a guy who is injured a lot. Even here, he was traded mid-year and still played most of the season. Almost full season here, almost full season here. So this is a guy who's been relatively healthy. And as far as like contract is concerned, we don't have details on his 1-year deal, but it's not going to be more than this. They signed the Vikings last year, signed Tillery to a 1-year, $2.75 million deal. I think it might be less than that. He was only guaranteed $1.4 million of that at signing. We'll see if it's a vet min deal or what exactly it is. But this is another example of just a guy you're going to bring in. He can move all around. He's been relatively healthy. He's not a machine, a monster, or anything like that. But I do like the fact that the Chiefs have Joe Cullen, a really good D-line coach. I was going to say one of the best. I don't want to overspeak, but just a good long time tenured D-line coach. He's been coaching D-line since like 2000. Okay, so Joe Cullen he's been through it for a long time, and the D-line has been doing a pretty good job since he's come to town. Now, last year I would say they probably took a little bit of a step back, but you're trying to rebuild. Now, if you look at again, this is PFF grades, okay, so take it for what it's worth. But if you look at grades, Tillery's kind of at the bottom here. If you sort it by pass rush grades, Tillery is still kind of at the bottom here. But you're just looking, he didn't play as many snaps as some of these guys. But, so he played 482 snaps compared to like Turk Wharton played almost 800. Chris Jones played 930. He was a rotational guy. I called my editor, Troy. He's a Vikings fan. I said, hey, what can you tell me about Tillery? Because he was a Viking last year. He said, not much. He's a good, nice little rotational guy. I said, thank you. Hung up. So last year, yeah, he played 17 games, 28 tackles. He's not like a sack machine or anything like that. The most sacks he's ever had in a season is 4.5 sacks. He didn't have any last year. Rotational guy. Again, this is just you're going to raise the floor and you need bodies in there. I think this is more than just a body. I think he most likely makes the roster and you're not going to break the bank for him. Just one piece of many that the Chiefs are adding. Again, former first-round pick of 2019. He's 6'6", about 300 pounds. And I think the Chiefs are going to draft at least one defensive lineman, specifically DT. It's a very deep tackle class, defensive tackle class, one of the deepest in recent memory for a lot of people. So they're definitely going to do that. Maybe they add an edge as well. But they are getting pieces put together. You've already seen Kareem Hunt back. The running back room's looking pretty good. They then got Minshew and Bailey Zappi. I forgot to mention that earlier. So their QB room's looking pretty good. They brought Hollywood Brown back. You've got the left tackle shored up in Jalen Moore. Elijah Mitchell was one of the running backs that they added to the room. You're getting ready for the draft. You're filling positions of need. You're still going to draft some of these positions, but you're not going to be like ultra desperate. I would not be surprised if the Chiefs took a defensive tackle round 1, round 2. I just wouldn't. It just depends on who falls, but this is something that we could see double dipped upon in free agency. Because again, Chris Jones, he's a monster. He's a machine. He is 30 though, and he's not getting any younger. You need some guys around him, young guys. So at times Chris Jones can rotate in, or come off the sideline, take a break for a second, or kind of move all along the line wherever he needs. And Tillery is a depth piece, raises the floor, can kind of play all around the line where you need him. He's only 28 years old, but plenty of NFL experience. And if anybody's going to be able to get the best out of their players, I like Spags and Joe Cullen to be able to kind of do that, to draw from their strengths, and then kind of just say, hey, when you go out there, watch Chris Jones. Wherever he goes, line up elsewhere. And that's the move. I'm curious to know what you guys think. Chris Jones makes others better. That's a great point, Matt. Chris Jones does make others better because Chris Jones is going to draw double teams. He's going to get a lot of attention there that's going to free up a lot of people. Turk Wharton signed a massive deal with the Panthers coming off of a career year. Well-deserved. Loved it. I wish the Chiefs could have brought him back. But Chris Jones definitely made Turk Wharton better. Chris Jones is a problem. Best defensive tackle in the NFL since Aaron Donald retired. And even before Aaron Donald retired, some people could try to argue him in as better than him. I think it's 1A, 1B situation. But yeah, that is very true. Chris Jones makes people better. I like the signing. It's nothing to like fall over about and pass out about, but solid. He's been healthy, super athletic. They're going to be able to draw the best out of him this year on his 1-year deal. There's no contract details out yet, but I'm assuming it's around vet-min-ish deal. Couple million, maybe 2, 3 with incentives. This is what the Chiefs have been doing, these creative deals. Every single signing, nobody's really broke the bank. I mean, Trey Smith is expensive as hell, don't get me wrong, but if they get a long-term deal done with him, that'll even itself out, even though in the end, he's going to be one of the highest paid guards in the NFL. They re-signed Nick Bolton, 3 years, $45 million, 30 guaranteed. That's expensive, but a lot of the pieces they brought in from free agency, super creative, low risk, and they're just guys that are going to make them better and fill up holes before the draft. Slamming with the 2, how do you feel offensive tackle Holland Pierce for pick 127? You are way further than me in the draft if you're saying pick 127 out of the top 100. I'm only in the first couple of rounds here with a few position groups. But just on the note, I don't think that offensive tackle is off the table for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you get a guy that they're high enough on, even early, somewhere near the top 100, I could see it happening. Again, Jalen Moore is only on a 2-year deal. You could get out of his contract after next year, but you're going to have to eat some dead cap, maybe 10-ish million to do so. Another thing to think about when thinking about an offensive tackle is Jawan Taylor. You could get out of his contract next year, and they might want to do that. So you get an offensive tackle that can play on the right side if it's not Wanye Morris, because you're already paying Creed a piss ton of money. He reset the center market. Trey Smith's probably going to reset the guard market. And then the left tackle's not extremely expensive, but if you could move on from Jawan next year, I'm not saying that they do, but they can. If you had a rookie tackle that you're high on to be able to plug in and he's super cheap, like that's a win. That is definitely a win. So offensive tackle is not off the table in the draft. Cornerback, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge, even wide receiver. A lot of those positions are not off the table. I'll be curious to see what the Chiefs do, but here's what they're doing. Getting ready, slowly but surely, adding pieces. I mean, there's still a bunch of players coming off the board right now as I'm looking online. No other Chiefs player. But let me know your thoughts on the moves that the Chiefs have made in the comments down below. What do you think of this one in particular? Defensive tackle, Jerry Tillery. I had the title versatile defensive tackle because he can move all along the defensive line. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go.
How about